everyone here.
Sorry. Okay, now.
Okay, so I just want to welcome everyone for coming. Thank you for being here. We are so excited about this course and the opportunity it gives us all to meet our illustrious, I'm going to use that word, alumni, and to learn from all of you, and to have students have the privilege of being mentored by some faculty, some alum, and learning from all of you who are special speakers. And so just because the students are small in numbers, I'm going to ask them to simply introduce themselves briefly by name, major, and year. And then I'll turn it over to you, Carol, to introduce our speaker, okay?
Yes.
All right, so Talana, since you're a senior, would you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, my name is Talana Moore. I'm a senior criminal justice major, pre-law minor from Long Island, New York.
Good. And Drusilla?
Hello, I'm Drusilla Lindsay. I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and I'm a junior. My major is music on a vocal track, although I do play piano as well, and I'm minoring in pre-law.
Wonderful. Ayana? Ayana? She is not listening.
Actually, I don't see her on the list. Let me see. Is she here?
Yeah,
Yes, she is. She is here. Okay.
okay, Alice, is it Allison? She was in the car. Well, we have two other students, and Ayana, her doctor is calling her. Okay, and Ms. Wilson? Abigail.
Hi, my name's Abigail Wilson. I'm a senior. My major is sociology.
Okay, so this is the second time we've had this course, and we're getting better at it all the time. So Carol, would you introduce our guest for today?
I would be delighted. Dr. Beale Morgan, class of 1968, is with us this evening, a distinguished alum hailing from Florida at the moment, but he's originally from Sierra Leone. And because we were just remarking that when we knew him, he didn't have white hair, he had lots of black hair. He's had quite a journey from Lincoln University to becoming a physician, and now to becoming an expert in his field. So he's going to tell you really more about his story, and I think we all want to hear it from him.
Well, good evening all. My name is Beale Morgan. I was born in Freetown, Sierra Leone. You probably heard of that small country in West Africa.
Yes.
My formative years were spent in Freetown, went to elementary and high school in Freetown. And after graduating from high school, I came to the US. Why the US? Well, my brother-in-law had graduated from Lincoln and had gone home, and he worked for the government. And he linked me up with Lincoln. And so I came to Lincoln University. And there I met all sorts of people from Africa, from the US, from the Caribbean. And we formed a unit. And it was fun whilst we were in Lincoln. Okay, my father had 4 other children, and he had to pay my fees at least the first 2 years. After that, he said, you're on your own. So I worked during the summer break, and during the semester, I worked in the lab as a lab assistant. And it was under Professor Harrison in biology lab. And we got on very well. And the Lincoln years, as I said, were very good to us. And my hobby was soccer. I made 2 All-Americans in 1967 and 1968. And I was also captain of the team. After graduating, I worked for the University of Pennsylvania at one of their, I don't remember whether it was the, it was the jail outside Philly, anyway. And we tested drugs on volunteer inmates.
Hmm.
During that year, I received a scholarship. No, before that, at the end of after graduating, I applied to Meharry College, Medical College, to study medicine. I was put on the waiting list. And so I said, okay, either I go and do a master's or I find something else to do. Anyway, I was lucky enough to receive a scholarship from the German government. And I proceeded to Germany, to the University of Heidelberg. And before you start studying medicine in Germany, you have to do a year's course in German. And fortunately, unfortunately, I had done some German in Lincoln. But I ran away from the class as I thought it was too difficult. And I went to the French class. But when I went to Germany, we were forced to do it. They hardly spoke English. You had to speak German. And after the first year, I could read a novel in German.
Hmm.
And I started then medical school. And the medical school in Germany is about 5 years. You do a pre-clinic and you do exams in the pre-clinics. After that, you went to the clinical studies. I passed both of those courses, and after graduating from medical school, I decided I was not sure what I wanted to do, whether it was hematology or a surgical specialty. Anyway, I had worked during one of the summer breaks at the University of Pennsylvania. We were doing blood work for dogs, and I learned how to draw blood from dogs and use it for dialysis. Those were the early days of hemodialysis. And so I thought, okay, I want to do surgery. So I went to urology as a resident. The residency was for 5 years in Germany, finished the residency, and I worked a year, and then had a job in Saudi Arabia. Well, not everybody should go to Saudi Arabia. You know, it's a totally different society. Totally different society. You're not to talk to any female except they are your wife, your sister, or your mother. You are not allowed to talk to any female in public. But we were in the hospital, and the nurses, of course, most were from India or the Philippines. And we all got on well. And I was made the head of the urology unit in the city I was in Saudi Arabia. It was first in Hail, that was near the Jordan border. And later on, I went down south to the Yemeni border. And I was there also head of the urology unit. And most of the guys who I worked with were either they had studied in England or in the US or Germany. And we, as I said, in Saudi Arabia, there's no social life. You can, most times, if you have a birthday party, you'd invite your friends, male friends, of course. And the atmosphere was actually not so good. Finally, anyway, after 15 years, 15 long years, I returned to the States. And I returned to the States, and my kids were already here. I have 2 kids. I'd sent them back from Saudi Arabia to the US since they were starting school. And I have a daughter and a son. My daughter is now, and she has a master's and teaches in the Bronx in New York. And my son is working for the State Department. He's a lawyer. And good. When I came here, I was told to go back to residency, so I decided to join the health department. At the health department, I'm an epidemiologist in the STD division, and in that position, you meet a lot of people. I mean, people with gonorrhea, chlamydia, syphilis, and HIV. And the HIV, like even today, I had to interview a guy with HIV. It was the first time he had this HIV. And mostly the overwhelming majority of those who have HIV are men who have sex with men. And fortunately, now we have drugs for HIV. They don't cure the HIV, but they can make your viral load so low that they can't even count them. And when they are so low, you cannot transmit the HIV to your partner. So we stress to these patients that they must take their medication every day. Every day, as they take their coffee or tea, they should take their medication. And most of them do. Okay, and as I work for the health department in Pinellas County in Florida, and it's a fairly medium-sized county, and we have a lot of cases of HIV and syphilis. And with the syphilis, is that at least women most likely don't know that they have syphilis, except in the first stage, except in the second stage when they have what we call palmar-plantar scars or body rash. Then they realize they have something, and then they go to the doctors. Men, of course, most of men would know that they have it. And, but it's curable. They give them bicillin, and bicillin really, it's painful when they give it to the patients. So they give them, they divide the shots, one on either butt, and they get it that way, and are and are happy that they get rid of the syphilis. The chlamydia and gonorrhea mostly are young lady girls from, we have girls as young as 15 to 29, 30, 35, that area. And but we give them medication and they get rid of it. Okay. As far as Lincoln goes, as I said, we had guys like Gene Harvey, Smaxy, we had Joe, we had, and we had some guys who, we had a very loud guy, Archibald Lord Hammond. He was from Ghana.
Oh, yeah, oh God, yeah.
Yeah, he was very loud. Archibald Lord Hammond, yes. And we had guys from South Africa, from Namibia, and from Kenya. In fact, we had, I don't remember whether we had, yeah.
Angola, Mozambique.
The guy next to my room, Charles Wanyande,
Mm-hmm.
he was from Kenya, and he was a very good soccer player. He was a very good soccer player. And Charles roomed with one white guy from up north. I've forgotten. John was his first name. I don't remember his last name. And as I said, the Lincoln years were fun years, and we enjoyed ourselves quite a lot. Not forgetting the books, of course. And we had one history teacher, I've forgotten his name, short guy. I don't know whether Joe remembers him. Short white guy, history teacher. He was
Dr. Winchester?
Winchester, yes.
He's still around.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's in Oxford on the city council.
Excuse me?
He's in Oxford on the city
okay.
council.
Ah, okay, yeah. And in Lincoln, in the weekends, we used to go to Philly, or we went to New York or Washington. We all made sure that our classes end at 2 o'clock on Fridays. Then we headed out to either Lincoln, either out to Philly, New York, or Washington, DC. And there we went to parties and all. And I must confess, I smoked weed once only. We were at a party in New York, and I was sitting on the steps of in this house, and somebody was passing a joint around. I thought it was a cigarette. I do it first time. I said, well, what do people do with this stuff? That was one and only time I smoked weed, one and only time. Yeah. And as I said, we had fun in New York. Patrick Henry was also there. He was in class of 69, I think. Yeah, Patrick was class of 69. And yes, that was the time we had at Lincoln. Yes, and I don't know, I don't have anything more to say. If anyone has a question, I'd be willing to answer.
Hey, Beale?
Yeah.
It's Joe Williams.
Uh-huh.
You had a roommate named Arthur Henry James. We call him Beaver.
Oh, Beaver,
Was
yeah.
that a culture shock for you? Guy
It
from-
was, it sure was.
He was a thug in West Philly. So I guess
Yeah.
when he came up to campus, you said, whoa.
Yeah, it was. It was.
How was that?
Yeah.
How was that experience?
Well, I don't remember much of it, actually. I don't remember much of it, but I remember Beaver very well. Yeah. And there were guys who had their dorms. I wouldn't call it a dorm. They were in the village.
Yep.
They were in the village. And there they went on with all sorts of things. They carried on all sorts of things at the village. Yeah.
Carol, I have a question, if I might, from an alum.
Uh-huh.
Is Carol still there?
Yeah, you can go ahead, just ask it directly, Al. It's
Oh,
fine.
okay, I can do that. Okay,
Yes,
Dr.
you can.
Morgan, Carol and I are working on a totally separate initiative involving artificial intelligence in healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
And I was the science kid who hung out with poets and musicians, but I went on to be a science person.
Okay.
And one of the things I did in my career was develop what's known as a chatbot, which is an automated voice where you can describe your symptoms, if you will, and it will advise you on what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the common, this is a little bit indelicate, but since you're a urologist, I'll take the liberty. One of the most common symptoms in Pinellas County probably is urinary tract infections. Are you familiar?
Yep.
So
That's very common.
UTIs
Mhm.
is a very common symptom, and it's a very easily remedied solution. So if you talk to this chatbot, it will tell you exactly what to do.
Well, right.
So we were talking about, Carol and I, in a different medium altogether, applications for artificial intelligence. Ironically, one of the places we were targeting is Sierra Leone. But I was wanting to get your input. Do you see artificial intelligence, computers, automation having an impact in your field?
Having what?
In your field,
Oh,
your
yes, I
field
think.
of urology
yes,
and those
yes, I
public
think
health, do you see the presence of software, automation, artificial intelligence?
Well, yes, I think when it's taking over a lot of fields. So why not urology? You know,
Yes.
why not urology? So, and that would help the doctors also. You know, doctors and nurses would help them, you see.
So you
So,
see it as a positive, or are you afraid of it?
No, it's a positive. It's a positive. It's a positive.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I've heard about a person called the Boomer, who was a English department chair. I'd like to know more about this person. Was he chair when you were at Lincoln?
I don't remember the Boomer.
James Bonner McCrae.
Dean McCrae.
Oh, McCrae. Oh, yes, that was the
McCrae.
dean. That was dean. That was the dean.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Dean McCrae. Yes, of course.
And he was known as the Boomer.
Tell him
Oh,
why
well,
they-
that's the Boomer. Okay, yeah.
And
was
why
Dean
was he
McCrae.
called that, Beale? Do you remember?
I don't know why he was called the Boomer. I don't know why he was called the Boomer,
Okay.
but he was very strict. He was very strict.
And he
Oh,
was
no.
very loud. That was why.
Yes. Yep.
Well, that's good enough for me. Thank you.
Was he in the English department though?
No, no.
Education, wasn't he?
Education. Yeah,
Oh, education. Okay.
yeah. When we were
And-
there, the chair of English was Dr. Farrell.
And
Okay.
Dean Johnson, you remember Dean Johnson of chemistry?
Leroy Johnson. Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah, Leo Johnson. Yeah.
Yes.
he was vice president, academic VP, academic vice president.
Oh, okay.
You you mentioned Dr. Winchester, but you didn't say much about him. What in addition to this short white guy would you like to say?
No, he was a very good history teacher. I loved history doing history with him. In fact, at one point I thought of going to do graduate work in history. Till my father said, no, I sent you there to do medicine. None of that. So
This is Elisa. May I ask a question?
yes.
Sure, go right ahead.
Good evening, everyone. I guess one of the questions I have is, your experience on campus as Lincoln was increasing its presence of women on campus. You mentioned, coming from your native, country to this country and being on this campus that was transitioning from an all-male to a co-ed university. What were your observations and experience during that period?
Oh, we had very few women. We had very few women at that time. I don't think there were 50 women in Lincoln during my time.
18. 18.
50.
18.
No.
18, you see, right? There are very few women. And Carol was there. Oh, Gloria Doolan, and some others, forgotten their names. Yeah.
There's some great oral histories about women at Lincoln dating back to the 50s. Most of them were daughters of the faculty, but there's stories of how there were no women's rooms in Lincoln for many years. I arrived in 68 when you were leaving, and 70, in my recollection, Carol, correct me, please, was the big influx of women, where they had women's dorms like Laney and Ashman and places like that. But it was still a rarity up until 1970.
That's correct. That's correct.
Dr. Morgan.
Yes.
Had you ever thought of majoring in anything other than biology, or was that your initial thoughts? And
that was my initial thought. I was in high school. I was very good in biology. Okay, and I was good in English too. But I didn't know what to do with English. I'll go be a lecturer in English or something, write a book. So my father was a pharmacist, okay? And his brother also was a pharmacist. And so we're all in this science line. So it was natural for me to go to medicine. My younger brother is the one after me, he's a dentist. You see, the two others, one is a mining engineer or was a mining engineer, and the other was a marine biologist, you see. So it was we're all in the science line, you see.
One other question, if that's okay.
Sure.
There was thoughts when HIV first came on set. I guess that was probably around 1983 or so, around that time. And they thought that there would be a cure. Now, I spent 38 years in the pharmaceutical industry, and I tell folks that they never want to find a cure. They want to find a product that you'll use for the rest of your life. Do you believe that there will ever be a cure for HIV?
Well, the thing is, the HIV virus is a very, very difficult virus to deal with. You see, it exists in at least 2 or 3 forms, okay? And they've tried all sorts of ways to identify a cure for it, but up till now, they haven't been able to do it. I think they honestly think they can find a cure for it, even though they have medication now that would lessen the impact of HIV. I do think the scientists are motivated enough and to find a cure for it. I think so.
I saw today in the news that the says the third person ever to be cured of HIV happened using a transplant method involving umbilical cord blood.
Well, yeah. The very first person who was cured, and they had to do a bone marrow transplant.
Mm.
They did a bone marrow transplant, and that way they got rid of all his HIV and had new blood in it.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Dr. Morgan, I wanted to ask you about knowledge of Lincoln University in Sierra Leone. What is it?
Well, quite a lot of senior people in government attended Lincoln. Quite a lot of them attended Lincoln. And when they came back, they tried to get people who graduated from high school to go to Lincoln. And Lincoln has a very favorable name in Sierra Leone.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm. Good, good.
There's a wonderful audio presentation of Dr. Martin Luther King's presentation at the commencement address 1961 at Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
It's the dream speech before it was presented in 63 on the Mall. But in his preamble, there's some smack talk. And one of the things he mentions is he had just come back from Africa. And he jokes that most of the African leaders he spoke to thought there was only one college in America. It was Lincoln University.
Well, Kwame Nkrumah, I think Kwame Nkrumah attended Lincoln.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Ezekwe of Nigeria attended Lincoln.
Yeah, Zeke and Kwame are Lincoln grads.
Yep. So the leaders there at that time attended Lincoln.
Yes.
You see.
Dr. Morgan, at the time that you were there, we also had quite a few students from the unliberated parts of Africa, colonized parts of Africa. So Angola, Mozambique.
Oh, yes, yes, we did.
Spanish Sahara and the like. So they were all there part of a program instituted there at Lincoln. And so the Lincoln presence is also strong in Southern Africa.
In Southern Africa, yes. We had a lot of guys from Southern Africa. Yeah.
As a matter of fact,
Namibia.
Nelson Mandela's home in Soweto is prominently features his honorary degree from Lincoln and some other several other historically Black colleges. But Lincoln is certainly paramount in his memorials to him. And we also have a good number of leaders in Southern Africa who were trained at Lincoln, who came through Lincoln and some part of their experience.
Yes.
So that's a big part of our legacy. It's throughout Africa.
Yep, we do.
Do any students got any questions?
Do you have any biology majors?
Raise your hand if you're biology.
Science majors. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, Greg. He raises his hand. Reggie, what was your major at Lincoln? We can't hear you. You're muted.
You're muted. You're muted.
There he is.
Biology.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Did you stay in the field?
Somewhat. I just retired 2 years ago. I was a research technician for a chemical company. I was involved in new product and process development for an inorganic chemistry company.
Okay.
And Reggie's a pilot, right?
Yes, sort of. Yes, I've always had an interest in aviation, and I was a student pilot. And there's an expression that life gets in the way, but now that my kids are grown and bills are paid, I'm gonna start flying again.
Okay.
And I'm also, there's an organization called Black Pilots of America. It's a national Black organization. I'm a member of that. And I'm also a member of the Experimental Aircraft Association, and we give kids airplane rides.
Congratulations, brother.
You're doing great work. You're introducing a lot of young people to the field.
Yes, thanks.
And I know you work right out there, and they may be familiar right there in Kenneman. There's an
Yeah.
airport, and you provide classes.
Yes.
In
Well,
flying classes.
right now they haven't been active because of COVID, but I think they're going to start up again this summer.
That's good. Good.
Carol,
Yeah.
have I worn out my welcome yet?
Huh?
I wanted to comment on that if I haven't worn
Go
out my
ahead.
welcome.
Oh, go ahead. You're fine.
One of the most fascinating stories that I came across at Lincoln was Colonel Friend. I happen to know one of his descendants. It's like 1930 something, taught himself how to fly at Lincoln. I have no idea how you do that. And he went on to be the wingman for Chappie James and the Tuskegee Airmen.
Wow.
Tuskegee, right.
And he is, I think, the forgotten Lincoln grad, because most people misidentify him, but he came out of Lincoln University, somehow got to Tuskegee, and was the wingman for Chappie James, Colonel Friend, and then went on to manage the UFO program for the federal government, which is a whole nother story. But I thought you would be interested in that, Reggie. If you
Yeah,
didn't
definitely.
know.
Al, type his name in the chat so we can do some.
Colonel Friend, I don't remember his first name. I know it's like his granddaughter or something lives in the DC area.
Yeah, see if you can get that information for us. That's great.
Colonel Friend, yeah. You have to Google him.
His first name was Colonel?
No, that's his rank.
That was his rank.
Yeah, he's a Tuskegee Airman, Air Force Colonel.
Okay.
Went on to run the UFO program, which has come back into vogue, by the way. They just reinstituted it. But I digress.
Yeah.
No, but that's good because there's also another Lincoln grad whose name at the moment I can't recall, but he was also a Tuskegee Airman.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, I forgot his name. I have to look it up.
Yeah, Friend.
I think it's
You
Woodson.
know what?
Woodson is the name of these Tuskegee Airmen.
Woodson.
But I was thinking about this a few weeks ago. What's Lincoln's connection to Tuskegee Airmen? There's several of them. In our class, we had two classmates, Harry Ford, who became a physician, and then what's the guy outside of St. Louis who runs an engineering company? I think he's originally.
Yeah, I know who you mean. It'll come in a minute.
Yeah,
yeah, right.
But they were telling me that they came to Lincoln connected because both their fathers were Tuskegee Airmen.
Wow.
Yeah, and so we have classmates, Carol and I, and schoolmates from that era whose fathers were Tuskegee Airmen. So somewhere there is because a lot of Tuskegee Airmen were college educated, especially from historical.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember Sharon Sutton?
Yes.
Her father was a Tuskegee Airman.
Yeah. So we need to. So that's a project.
It is a good project.
I was thinking about this class, and I'm just thinking, that would be a great project for this class.
Rob,
class. Yeah.
That is a good project.
Sharon Sutton's brother is married to Carol's sister.
Small world.
Small world. Yeah.
Very small world.
But where do you learn to fly at Lincoln? Other than a crop duster.
In Oxford.
What is it, in a crop duster or something?
There's an airport in Kenneman, Al.
Bigly.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Been there quite a while.
At your own risk.
That was nice.
It was
Reggie flies out of, right?
Yeah, and there was an airport in Oxford years ago.
Oh, it was? Okay.
Yeah. And there was a Tuskegee Airman. Well, he was from Bryn Mawr. He wasn't a Lincoln student, but his name was Charles Alfred Anderson. Charles Alfred Anderson was the chief primary instructor at Tuskegee.
Wow.
And he flew Eleanor Roosevelt. If you see a picture of a man flying Eleanor
Yeah,
Roosevelt,
yeah.
it was, well, he taught himself how to fly because he had money to buy an airplane, and because he was black, he couldn't find a instructor, so he taught himself how to fly.
Wow. Wow.
And she was the first, she was president's wife, and she got on the plane because they weren't going to let blacks fly in World War II. So she got on and said, hey, and she flew and she said, hey, nothing go, it was great.
That's
And
right.
that changed the whole complexion
It
of
did.
the armed forces.
There's another man, he was from Haverford. His name is Roscoe Draper. Roscoe is 102 years old.
Wow.
And I know him personally. He was the second in command of the primary flight school.
Wow.
Wow. Wow. It's incredible.
Wow.
Who's recording all this history?
Well, this is on Zoom, which is good. So
yeah, it's being recorded there. But I mean, where's the documentation?
But where is it? Where is
for these accounts?
Yeah.
Really
Okay. Well, I know our group has a website, and also about 4 or 5 years ago, the U.S. Postal Service honored Chief Anderson with a stamp.
Wow.
So he's well known.
Good. Good.
Now I have a quick question about Chief Anderson. This is Elisa Drayton, class of 1990. Did he live in the Oxford area? What had him rooted in Southeast Pennsylvania?
Okay, well, Chief Anderson lived in a town called Bryn Mawr, which is closer to Philly, and he wasn't in the Oxford area, but I mentioned it because he's from this local area and he flew. So he wasn't rooted to Oxford or Lincoln.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Dr. Morgan.
Yes.
I'm just trying to get you back into the conversation, but here's a question. If anyone wanted to attend medical school now, any of these young folks that are online, what would you suggest they do? Like, especially if you haven't been, say, majoring in the sciences?
Well, you have to major in the sciences for you to be able to go to medical school, because they do, I've forgotten the exact name of the exam you have to do.
MCAT.
MCAT, yes, MCAT, and it's all science. It's all science. Physics, you have physics, you have chemistry, you have biology, you even have botany there. And so you have to really know your sciences before you were able to pass that exam, you see.
Dr. Moore, I'm more comfortable with Beale since I knew you way back then. But when you returned from Saudi Arabia, you could not practice medicine in the United States?
No, not with your German license. No, you have to go through. You have to take an exam to get into residency first of all, and then you go into residency for another 4 or 5 years, depending on what.
So they don't recognize your background
no, they don't. No, they don't. They don't.
Wow. Now, apparently you did get married. Now, tell us about your wife. Where did you meet her?
Well, I met my wife in Freetown, actually.
Okay.
It was through my friend, he's now dead. He died last year, Naib. Naib is Iskandar. He was also at Lincoln.
Oh, he was at
But
Lincoln.
when I got to Lincoln, Naib was already in Lincoln when I got to Lincoln.
Okay.
And she was a marine biologist, and now she's a PhD in health sciences.
Wow.
In health sciences, yes, and she's a lecturer in DC right now.
Fantastic. Great.
Dr. Morgan, if I may ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Given, your education in medicine, and I'm thinking about the current students at Lincoln who have aspirations in your field, how important is it for them now to have some international experience in their studies?
Well, that would be definitely a plus. That will definitely be a plus. If they would go, let me say, summer out, go to some country, whether the Caribbean or Africa or wherever, and get that experience, that would be a definite plus. Definitely.
Are there particular organizations that if they want to go into the specialty that you have, that they should, aspire to affiliate with?
There probably is, but I don't know of anyone personally. There probably is.
Okay, thank you.
Might I just comment? Hi, this is Drusilla Lindsay speaking. I just found it really interesting. You'd said earlier that your family, your father and your brother were all in medicine and that you were interested in medicine. I find it so interesting because I wanted nothing to do with medicine. My mother is a doctor and my father is a microbiologist, and seeing all the work they did and how much time they have to spend doing it, I was like, oh no, I can't do it. Well, I won't do it, I should say.
Well, you're right. Also, my kids, because they used to wake me up 2 o'clock in the morning to go do surgery or something, my kids said, we don't want anything to do with medicine.
Yes.
Yeah.
My children said the same thing about law.
Yeah.
Too much work, 2 hours are too long.
Right.
They wanted nothing to do with it. Although one did become a lawyer eventually, the one that really wanted to do medicine. That's sick of washing bottles. Yeah. Yeah.
And if I may offer that, what can we do to inspire more people, young people of color, to aspire for those types of roles in medicine? If I recall from some recent statistics, we don't have as many doctors of color or diversity.
Well,
and
you have a lot of Black women.
Okay.
You have a lot of Black women who are doctors. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of Black men who are doctors, you see.
Okay.
Well, Beale, I saw a statistic that less than 2% of doctors are Black women. So even if we have a whole lot of Black women, that must mean we have almost no Black men.
Well, yeah, we have very few Black men who are doctors. Like I worked at the lab in St. Joseph's Hospital in Tampa, and the majority of the doctors were either women or men from Africa.
Can I comment on that? What was I going to say? Part of the problem with old age is you lose your thought right after you raise your hand.
Yes, been there, done that.
We'll wake you up at 2 o'clock in the morning and get the gas.
No, I was going to say that Lincoln used to be one of the biggest providers of pre-med students. Lincoln had a medical student, this is in the 19th century, but the problem is Flexner. Dr. Morgan, are you familiar with the Flexner report?
With what?
The Flexner report?
I don't
Abraham
think so.
Flexner was a major figure in American education who said there's no point in educating Black men to be doctors.
Wow.
He was at the time motivated by the Heidelberg, Germany discipline for training doctors. And the US had just a random scheme of training doctors. But as part of his report, which primarily said, let's structure the way that doctors are trained in America, also said, there's no point whatsoever to training Black men to be doctors because it's of no value to society. And he went on, I believe, in my opinion, I'm willing to be challenged, is that's the reason Lincoln never reinstituted its medical school.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It's a tragedy.
Same thing with theology.
Yeah, Google Abraham Flexner. It's a fascinating story, and it has other implications to Lincoln that I won't get into because time is short. But Flexner killed the dreams of a lot of Black men who wanted to go into medicine, and it still exists today. That's still attitude. I mean, you know, I don't know her name. The lady that spoke, it's Drusilla.
Yes. Hi, Drusilla. Yes.
Drusilla, my wife is from a family of doctors, so that when we have a reunion, they automatically ask her, "Where are you practicing?" But she's not a doctor, but she's from a long line of.
Tell them about Shaniqua.
Yeah, exactly. Well, unfortunately, it's Meharry, it's Howard. Yeah, I mean, there's only a handful of schools really that represent 80%, 90% of the Black doctors in America.
Of course, that says something about the major medical schools and their enrollment of Black students.
It does.
The lack thereof, yeah.
And I don't think we have to expand on that. We know what that is.
Well, you know, that's, go right ahead.
Sorry. Oh, no, please.
No, go ahead. I want to hear you.
That's really interesting you say that because my father, he's a microbiologist, and when he was teaching at Temple and even where he's teaching now, I forget what the school is called, but over there, he said he always told us like a lot of his classes were filled with a lot of white and Asian students, and he had probably about 2 Black students in his entire time at the school that he's at now, and then very few, very like small group of students, especially at Temple, teaching the microbiology program there. And it's really unfortunate. And he was really surprised by that.
Same thing.
What's interesting about that whole concept, though, I think, is the rigors of the undergrad program also will direct you away. There are a lot of times when students don't necessarily want to spend their time doing the chemistry, the physics, the microbiology, things of that nature. So I graduated in '77 with a degree in biology, and I actually had planned on going to medical school. Some of you might know, but my mother passed away between my sophomore and junior year at Lincoln, and I saw her at the University of Pennsylvania Hospital deteriorate over time. And after seeing that whole process, I decided I didn't want to go to medical school. So I said, what else can I do with this degree in biology? And that's when I started interviewing with pharmaceutical companies and got hired by Merck and Company at the time, Merck Sharp and Dohme. And then from that point, spent the next 38 years of my life in the pharmaceutical industry. So I just say that to say that if we want our young folks to go into the sciences, we really need to teach them young and get them interested in that before the point in time that they decide that they're going to go into history or English or sociology. I mean, there's nothing wrong with those professions. Interestingly enough, and I'll get off my soapbox, but I used to wonder why anyone would want to major in anything but biology. Because I thought the body was the most interesting machine in the world. And this is
Beale could answer that question.
But
it was life for him. His father wasn't going to take anything less.
But as an undergrad, I also, Dr. Johnson tried to get me to switch over to chemistry.
Chemistry, okay.
And said that he said, Miller, if you want to, yes, he said if you want to go to med school, he says switch to chemistry. And I guess they were trying to get folks out of the biology program into the chemistry program. But I said no, I'm going to stick with the biology program, and still didn't end up going into medicine. But you know, I found myself in the field of science anyway. So there are options. Ms. Lindsay, one of the things that I must say about folks who have a knack for science also have a very good knack for music.
Oh, yeah.
And so I admire the fact that you chose your profession and you're following your passion, because there's no doubt about it that science background that's genetically in from your parents, it's coming through in your music. So you're doing well.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bria, what's your major?
Human services, and I'm a minor in psychology.
All right.
That sounds like medical school.
Yeah, it sure does.
Or maybe law school.
No.
No, huh?
Medical school.
Bria is our Mellon's student researcher this semester, and she's writing an article about activism at Lincoln University. And you may be hearing from her in the near future. She's learning to be more assertive in her pursuit of info.
Great.
What about Ms. Harris?
She said she couldn't come on.
Okay.
Yeah.
She's there though.
Yeah, she's here. Yeah.
It's almost time for us to close unless there's more ideas you want to pursue. There's dinner for students to get, and I have a 7 o'clock Zoom, but you don't want to close prematurely if there's any other thoughts. Dr. Morgan, they are so
it's been most interesting, and to know you all, get to know you all and hear your views. And I'm happy I was invited to give a talk. I was hesitant at first, as Carol, but I'm glad I agreed to give this short talk. Okay.
Wonderful. Good having you.
And where are you located again, Dr. Morgan?
It's Palm Harbor, which is just outside Tampa, Florida.
Oh, okay.
Well, Dr. Morgan, we have recorded this session, and so your talk will be available to other students, and I'm sure you'll serve as an inspiration to them to pursue medicine.
Thank you.
Beale, do you hear from Archie Lord Hammond at all?
No, since I left Lincoln, I haven't heard from Archie Lord Hammond.
I'm trying to find him. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that was a question I had. Do you stay in touch with some of your other classmates?
Which, my other classmates?
Yeah, from that period.
Oh, Smaxy, of course, we keep in touch through Facebook. And Jean Harvey, yeah.
Okay, good.
Jean Harvey's in DC. We talk quite often. And a few others.
What about Doc Roberts?
He's dead.
No, Doc, since I left Lincoln, I never had one Doc.
Okay. All right. Wow. It's good to have you. Good to see you. When you coming to Lincoln again?
I don't know. I might in the not this year, next year maybe.
Okay, we'll look for you.
Yes, we will. We sure will.
Just a very quick observation. In this discussion today, there were a couple of themes that came up in last week's discussion were somewhat repeated. One was continuity, maintaining contact with members of either your cohort or past or future cohorts. And students observed, or some people observed, that there's a new, because of technology, social media, and so forth, the kinds of interactions that we had don't necessarily take place, but because there's other forms, other ways that people can communicate with each other and pass on the lessons and the experiences. The other point was about, and we really haven't stressed this, but the global or international experiences. And how do we impart that to our students so that they can, because I'm sure I remember Greg talking about a lot of his experiences in a world context. Reggie, I'm not sure where you've flown to, but I imagine you've been all over the world flying, or at least you have the opportunity to expand your wings. But how do we stress that? How do we help encourage students to take advantage of those opportunities, either as undergraduates or recent graduates, to build up a base of knowledge and experience that will serve them well for a lifetime? But those are just a couple of themes that came through.
You're right.
Yes. If anybody has a list of the students 68 who graduated in 68 and are still alive, I'd really like to have it.
There actually is a website, Beale. I'm going to send it to you.
Okay. All right.
That's the 68 website. Yeah.
Good. Thanks.
Yeah, and Morris Reed told me to tell you hello.
Oh, Maurice Reed, yeah. Maurice Reed, yeah. I remember Maurice. Yeah.
Good.
He's back in New
Robert?
Jersey now. Yeah.
Robert?
Yes.
Robert still there?
I'm here.
Yeah, you asked me about information on the policy I mentioned. If you Google Roscoe Draper, you'll find information about Roscoe. And also look up Charles Alfred Anderson. And I'm also a member of Black Policy of America. We have a website and we're also on Facebook.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Welcome.
Rob, you know, he's Noble Thompson's brother. Did you know that? Could make that connection?
I didn't make that connection.
Yep. Yep.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. You're making my point, Carol.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know Noble?
Yeah, he was part of our generation.
Yeah.
He was part of our cohort at Lincoln at that time.
Did you remember Noble, Beale?
No, I don't remember.
He's retired. He was one of the very first Black radiologists.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And a magnificent organist.
Yeah.
He played the Lincoln organ beautifully. I
What
tried to get him to play more.
What class was he? What class?
64.
64.
Okay, now.
Remember Jesse McFarland? Bill?
Excuse me?
Do you remember Jesse McFarland?
McFarland, I remember, yeah.
We call him Bullet Head.
Yeah. I remember McFarland.
You may not remember his real name, but
He is a famed gospel organist.
Gospel.
In
okay.
Jackson.
No, he's in
Oh, God.
Florida.
Tallahassee.
Tallahassee, Florida.
Oh, okay.
He played for all the major gospel recording artists.
What's his name?
Jesse McFarland.
McFarland.
Okay.
He's the minister's son from
All right.
Erie, Pennsylvania.
Well, thank you all. You've been wonderful.
You're
Enjoyed
welcome.
the conversation. And Beale, we just loved hearing from you and
Thank
your
you.
story. And it's been most inspiring.
And very interesting and thoughtful.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Good night, Bill. Take care,
Good
buddy.
night.
Take care.
Talk to you later.